All right.
What's up, dude?
Oh, let's go. Yeah.
Happy Monday.
Let's go. Gap City. You look at these cruise lines today. Ah,
Yeah, off the oil downside.
yeah, I suppose, huh? That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome charts. Yeah, cruise and airlines higher off weakness in oil.
Dude, after I had started looking at this fucking IBIT chart, I'm like, I got shaken out. I for sure did. I was paper hands McGee.
Oh, yes, you were.
What are you gonna do? Dude, that was so. Ah, man, I've fallen for that. Honestly, I've fallen for that tether headline. Probably. I mean, that headline's been circulating for as long as I can remember. Um, like tether as like a scam, like a problem, and like it being investigated. That headline's been around for forever, and every time it comes out, I'm like, this is gonna, and then it never does. You know what they say? Is Google gap up? Hey, there's a good example on Google here. I mean, started talking about this a little bit last week, but this oops reversal candle on the weekly, right there at all the MAs, sitting right at this big neckline to start the week. When's AMD's earnings? Tomorrow. All right. Um,
All right.
I'm a little in between of am I going to be forced to buy stuff right at the open, or are they going to bless us with a little bit of diddle in the middle? Does Nat look solid? All right, dudes. How we doing, everybody? Welcome. Good morning. Come on in. Let's take a look at the market here. Um, we got about a 0.6% gap up on SPY right now, about $3.40. We're above Friday's opening candle, which is also right at last Wednesday's high when we got this little sell down. So, I think you kind of mark out, right around that 581.60, 581.70. I think in the very near term, that can be that opening price. Can be a pretty good kind of area to play against. You can see right there. That's where we opened here on the gap down. That's where we opened here on the gap up. And yeah, so there's a little bit of action around there. Also, around the pre-market low. So you got about a 70 cents little zone of love right here to kind of dictate our overall bias. And then, you know, this bullish open gap as of right now, let's just kind of mark that out here, right? this could end up being something. There's no question about that. Much like right back here, right? If you look at this little bullish open gap that I've got highlighted, I just want to kind of mark these out. So we'll see, what ends up coming to this. But if it ends up being a strong close, close to and or even above previous day's high, or even inside, that'll be really positive for the market. We'll start to see we'll see stocks fall through. We'll see if stocks hold their gap and fall through to the upside. There's some pretty big size gaps, especially in like the crypto stocks, obviously. CLSK up 5%, Wolf up 5%, BTBT up almost 6%, Irene up 4.5%, Coinbase up 3.7%, Cypher, IBIT, Cores. Cores had a nice little upgrade this morning. And then you got some, just some various, 2% gap ups. In some of the mega cap techs, Meta's up like what, 1.5. Google is up almost 2%. Microsoft up almost 1%. Yeah, you get the picture. So anyways, to kind of put it in perspective, that's kind of the area to where this could really be a gap up kicker candle, right? Most like, in fact, I'd say all three scenarios are in play. The most likely is a gap up kicker candle to the upside and follow through, followed by, staying inside of this. That might even be the primary scenario. So I'd say that's one
I
and
would say
two.
inside's most likely, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that probably might take
Which
the
would be
cake.
awesome. I'd love that.
Yeah, that's probably actually the more probable situation. But I think the more tradable one is the kicker candle. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at.
Hmm.
That would be actually the hardest, to be honest, too, because that would force us to either be spectators other than the current positions, which got some nice positions, um, or have to chase some stuff up. By chase some stuff up, I mean buy the gap up, which is fine. But on a lot of stocks, it just looks hard. Um, and then I would say honestly, the third scenario of if this fades off, I'm not like preparing for that, and I don't have anything in my back pocket in case that happens, other than limiting reducing risk, I suppose. But that doesn't really kick in until Friday's low is taken out, because this could just come in to this 580 to 578 area and be a really good hold spot. And that's not that far down. It's only $2, $4. It would feel kind of ugly, but I think that's probably the least likely scenario. And then the Qs, I think, look even more attractive. Even with this fade off yesterday on Friday, is still up 0.6%, gapping up 0.75% right now, kind of almost over this range right here.
65-minute looks pretty nice
Let me
with
take
the
a look.
last 2 days.
Oh yeah, dude, this looks super nice.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, like this, yeah, that is really nice. Just kind of this look right there in the gray box here. I mean, this is what kind of makes me lean to this is very possibly like gonna break away and get going. Um, so
Got the big earnings this week, so
yeah, they start pretty much tomorrow. And then IWM here, this is again really close. You get 221, maybe just under 221. This starts to really look like a gap and kicker candle type look. With this, bullish open gap right here. So there's a lot of things, I think to pay attention of it. And besides what the indexes are showing, I think the individual stocks will show that ahead of time. And you'll see like if we gap up, like when we open, if we start fading off, immediately, that we'll probably have to sit and watch how things are going. But that's like the ideal scenario is that we pull back at open. We're going to need some sort of pullback at open. The hardest thing is that if we gap where we are on some of these stocks and just start pushing right away, and break opening ranges and start trending up, it's going to be really challenging to get into some things. For me, at least, it's just not. It's not one of the things that I'm not as good at. I wish I were, and I really do need to get better at buying some gap up strengths when there's follow through in the morning. But I really do prefer that, quick pullback buy at the open. Um, Rocco, what
Yep.
up?
Um, so yeah, so as far, I've been watching the cues this morning. I think, I'd like to see us backfill a little bit of this gap in the morning. I think we could pull back a little bit. SPY's kind of gapping up into that spot where we started to kind of speed up, with the selling pressure on Friday. I'd like to see this, if you want to see this, pattern and continue follow through to the upside through this 500 spot, I'd like to see this gap stay open today. And the Q's not able to fill this gap. I think that'd be a really positive sign. Even if we do fill the gap and hold it, that'd be good. But we don't want to come back through Friday's lows. I don't think we want to see this gap uphold today. I don't have a ton I'm interested in buying today. I think for me, it's kind of all eyes on Bitcoin right now with this pattern. Um, I kind of got these little, you can see, we've been talking about this, since I think September when I started bringing it up when we, got involved in MSTR down here. Ended up fumbling that trade, but it, worked really well since. I kind of got these like higher low shelves that we're building out. And you can see like each one of these big patterns is getting like tighter and tighter. Now we're up into this, upper trend line. We popped into it last week and we're coming out of this little flag now. You got price action really nice and tight. You had like that news come out on Friday with Tether and, ended up being false or whatever. And this got bought up. That was like a nice little shakeout. You actually traded some decent volume on like IBIT and stuff that day. And yeah, we're coming back up into this trend line. I think, you know, given how tight this is, if it does break through here, I think 70K will probably get taken out pretty easily because, you've built up some nice compression here with these moving averages nice and tight. Um, yeah, and then the next big spot I think is 72K, which will kind of, confirm this if we can get through that. If we do get through like 70, 72K, there's been a few Bitcoin names that have worked, the MSTR, Wolf recently just started like kind of participating. Coin's been pretty decent. A lot of the miners have seen a couple days of follow through, but they haven't been the easiest traders. They haven't been trading like, when Bitcoin has gone on those previous runs where, those just absolutely rip, right? But if we clear this little area, I think all of those kind of come into play as just daily traders, and we'll all start to move kind of together as a group again. So I think yeah, this is a big watch here. I mean, if we do pull back a little bit today and find some support intraday, I would be interested in putting on a position in like BitX or something. It's a little hard to buy up here. We're up 3 days in a row on Bitcoin. From that little shakeout on Friday. BitX obviously is a little leveraged, so you'd have to have a little bit of a wide stop there. It's a little tough to manage risk here, but the reward does seem pretty large when you're zooming out and looking at this base. You take a look at the weekly. You had this like pretty much inside week last week with this big lower wick, and you got like just this really nice 3 candle pattern so far on this weekly chart. So I'd say through last week's highs kind of would confirm this breakout for me on this daily and weekly pattern. So we'll see how this acts. I'm going to be watching this pretty close today. I know TSDR is pretty upset about it. You're definitely feeling some FOMO this morning. You got an IBIT back, what, Wednesday last week, right? I
Yeah,
think
damn near right at the lows.
right
So
at the lows off the 20 MA. Yeah.
like
Um,
65.3.
yeah, so this looks phenomenal. I mean, every day it's just looking better and better. So, we'll keep an eye on this with that BitX. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. I got a few other ideas I'm watching that aren't really ready yet. Kind of just monitoring the market today. I want to see how we act on this gap up and gonna kind of have a big focus on earnings this week. Not a ton of them this morning. I mean, PRCT's got a big earnings gap up if you're into this. Gapping up 20% this morning on earnings. Pretty strong pre-market action there. And that's pretty much about it as far as notable movers this morning. So yeah.
For me, for the most part, I have to run to the bathroom in a second, but for the most part, I need to see what pulls back at the open. And yeah, I really don't want this to just gap and go right away. I'm gonna say it one
You
more
know, coin
time.
looks really good. It's just it's a little tough to kind of, manage risk ahead of earnings, right? If
Hmm.
this doesn't get moving and you don't get stopped out, it's like how do you kind of justify that? But CLSK is another one that potentially has a really nice daily pattern if this does follow through today. Um, yeah, I mean it's been the same thing every day with these things. It's just a matter of time.
I know. Yeah, CLSK and BTBT are like at the top of my list. I really like this BTBT. God, a week open would have been so awesome on this, and then like a little sweep down here and then go would have been perfect. But um, they had a PR last week, sometime last week. It didn't really get much traction about their like additional, compute being used for like AI stuff, and you're seeing that with like Irene, right? Where these, this is one of the first ones, Irene, Wolf, right? Where they're not just Bitcoin miners, that they're using that those computers. I mean, and by the way, Nvidia, that was Nvidia's story back in 2017, was everyone was buying these GPUs for Bitcoin mining. And that was the first story. And then it was like, or it was gaming first, and then it was Bitcoin mining, and now it's AI. So Nvidia's always been at the forefront of that. Anyways, and some of these other ones are starting to have that dual theme, that's really starting to kind of gain some traction. I think this Irene still looks great. I mean, even if I mean, you really just like kind of circle this area nice and tight below this like 950 to $10 spot. Looks really awesome. I don't want to do repeat. There we go. Wolf is like the leader of these. I think this was a nice little quick sideways action. Again, before this day, it would have been sweet to get some weakness and get a little go signal. I would have been in on that, early last week. I would have gotten some of that week open on it. So yeah, BTBT, Irene, CLSK, are probably the ones that I'm watching closest. I do want to take a look at Mara here this morning. Um, I mean, I could see myself buying this just based on kind of the look, but I'm not going to, because I respect myself too much to buy Mar to trade Mara and buy that. So that's kind of where we're at. So yeah, it leaves me with CLSK, BTBT, and Irene, which are going to be some pretty close looks. Um, these cruise lines are gapping up pretty notably. Again, this is somewhat frustrating because these were really good. These are really good setups. Yeah, Brocco brought up the oil weakness. If you look at USO, this is down 6%. That's a pretty notable gap down on oil. And then that, obviously, benefits a cruise line, or even an airline. Even is this up a little bit because of, right, they buy oil and they need fuel. So CCL, VIK, and NCLH, I think these are all in play. VIK is gapping up the lease. It's only up 25 cents, 0.65%. Double inside days coming into the day. I think it's pretty reasonable to have these on the list. Wasn't able to talk about MSOS last or on Sunday scans, but throw this on the list here. It is below the 200 day, but this candle on Tuesday, this leaves a mark, and the way that it's consolidated since, I think, is really nice. Marijuana legalizations on the ballot in Florida, and then in early December they do have the hearing of the rescheduling, which we talked about way back here at these arrows, was when the rescheduling of marijuana, whatever, from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, or vice versa, whatever it is. This is when it got PRs about that potential change, was where I've got these arrows. So I think that's reasonable to keep on your list. And then the other area I'm watching is this net. I think this looks really good. Building out a nice little 65-minute base. You can see I kind of pulled into the 20, kind of popped, and we're dancing around right here, well, hanging around the moving averages. D Dog, I would love to buy. I would love to buy this. I should have bought this Friday immediately at open on the gap up. So I'm gonna need to see some sort of sideways action on the daily or the 65-minute to allow me to get in this D Dog, and I really want to. Um, People have floated this snowflake a lot. I think you just draw, a line at like 117.50 on this one, give or take a couple, like 20 cents. And then you look for this to actually pop back up and hit the EMA cross back versus the immediate wedge pop on this. Because for all we know, this could just be, right? This could just do this and then completely fail. So, better to put yourself in a higher probability situation for waiting for that cross back, in my opinion. If it's a much stronger stock, that's a different scenario. You can buy that remount. Part of me wants to watch some of these China stocks. Oh, CORZ. Sorry, I meant to put that in the list of CLSK, BTBT, and Irene. This did get upgrade to a $19 price target from Jeffries this morning. Had a weak close. This is possible little kicker candle if you start to see us push 14, 14.10. That'll be new all-time highs. You might be able to buy that. This has given some opportunities. I think we've talked about this quite a bit. So if you have a position, congrats. I think you can get some good follow through on this. I'll talk about anything else. You guys looking at? What are we missing? What looks good? Yeah, KBYO. I got some $40 calls sold against this for November. CEG. Yes, actually, I've got those written down. CEG and TLN on my list right here. And I've only got like 12 stocks written down. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, so I want to go over. Okay, so I'm super down to see even a little bit more weakness. If you look at the 65-minute, you can see there's lower wicks here. So this is some strong support in this area, between what 264 and 264, pretty much 264 and 263. Some really, nice support. Now I would love to see a little bit of weakness and then, get that little go signal where you get a little weakness in the morning, kind of goes green to red, and then it spikes back up and takes out this range. That's like an immediate buy for me if you get that on CEG. On the daily right here, you've got it sitting right at the 20 MA. This sequence, this pattern is still in play where you got the gap up on the PR, kind of dance sideways above this, high volume close right here. We just continue to hold that support area. There've been a few sellers up above right here on gap ups. Every time this is gapped up, it's had a little bit of trouble and then kind of faded off. But again, if you get that little sweep and signal on this, I think this is ready to go. And then TLN, I am looking for, this has consolidated a decent bit since I started talking about this. I would love nothing more than, a dip back down under, between 180 to 176 on this. And then you get some sort of lower wick signals near the 20 MA on this. Does it start going without me? Very possibly. But I'd like a little bit more information from this to allow me to get in, mostly because it's a little bit newer of a stock and not as familiar with it. But don't underestimate the power of an IPO like this. This is only a $9 billion market cap. It trades at half the valuation of some of the other nuclear utility stocks. And I think this is a big opportunity. lastly is this Zim, which is actually flat on the day. Sometimes this trades with some of the oil names. It has been, affected by headlines from the Middle East. But this longer term picture going back to June, we talked about this being nearly identical to the APP setup back here at the end of 2023 and early 2024. I just want to give one more little quick visual for everybody right there on APP. Okay, got it. Good. And then scoot on over to Zim. Again, shout out to Dark Oblivion. If you're if you're on here, hopefully you are. You message about this weekend. Gave a whole good thesis on this. I think you put it in the trade ideas as well. This has a lot of characteristics. In fact, almost all the characteristics of a potential really big breakout setup. And if it starts to show, if the market starts to show its hand and it, starts to trade higher, then I think we want to be involved. In fact, I think the more risk is, not being involved on this. If you can, find an entry, find a setup, find an area to risk off of, I think this could be huge. It's really exciting.
You got 5 seconds.